إن الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره الكافرون. نحمده تعالى على نعمائه لا نحصي ثناء عليه، وكما أثنى على نفسه وأثنى عليه رسوله عليه الصلاة والسلام. نشكره ولا نكفره، نؤمن به ونتوكل عليه، هو مولانا وعلى الله فليتوكل المؤمنون. ثم أما بعد، أحبتي في الله. Last week we mentioned that every one of us was created with a pure instinct, the fitrah. There is no faults in our minds or hearts that equals the perfection of our creation. So if we said, and it has been said through the hadith of Rasulullah that all of us are created with purity, and with a faith that's not polluted or damaged or altered, then what happens to us? Now in the hadith, it says, فَأَبَوَاهُ يُهَوِّدَانِهِ أَوْ يُنَصِّرَانِهِ. And the parents lead you to Judaism or Christianity or any other faith that is out there. That means there was an external factor that impacted that child to where they lost their purity. There's an influence that comes into that child's life that alters the truth and misguides that person, that child, into whatever faith that environment will offer. Now the hadith only mentions the father and the mother and the parents because they're the immediate environment that the child encounters as a baby. And knowing that stage of life is critical and crucial, because the first thing that a child encounters is his parents. And as a child, those two individuals are the most trusted of all existence at that moment. That child has no reasons to doubt the parents or to question the integrity of what they offer. Those parents are the world for that child. That's why the hadith started by mentioning the parents. But that does not mean that the influence and the exterior powers only lands within the parents. The society has a lot to do with it. And everything and everyone that we encounter in our lives have some impact and footprints on our lives. So the mention of the parents is not exclusive, that only the parents will guide us away. But it does emphasize the importance of who your parents are. And I don't want to have this as our khutbah this week, but for all of those that are seeking a partner in life, a spouse, when you seek a spouse, remember this hadith, that the choice that you make impacts the child that you will have. And you alone are not the only influencer in that child's life. Your spouse has equal influence, if not more at times, than you do. So when you want to choose the person that you want to marry, remember that you're not just fulfilling a lust or love or infatuation that you might have or beauty that you might seek. It's also the outcome in the destiny of your child. Now, I know many of us as young men and women, we don't think that far. We just look at the individual of how beautiful and attractive they are, and maybe we'll ask if we are compatible, or what kind of a job and income he has, or what kind of a background she has, and we can probably just look at that. We really never look at the character or the principles that this person lives upon. Oh yes, I looked into her character, she's very nice and kind. That's not character. That's an outcome of what the character is. Character is what a person is made of. The principles that they're molded into. They're carved from, which is their belief. Character is a belief, not an act. The act is an outcome of the character. He's a good man, you say. He likes to help people. He likes to help people as an outcome of being a good man. A good man is, how do I judge that person? Not by these individual acts, by the belief and principles that he has adopted to himself. And there is no good for a person that did not adopt into his life Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can one be so good when they have excluded themselves from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and excluded themselves from appreciating the one that gave them all? Allah ta'ala gave us all. If we don't believe in Him and submit ourselves to Him, then we have not appreciated Him. Where's the good character in that? But that's not the khutbah for today. The khutbah for today is, since there are exterior powers and influences that come into our lives and change and alter who we are and where we want to be and what we want to be, then we want to understand, are these forces, are these influences enforced on us where we have no choice whatsoever? Now maybe as a child, yes. But at the age of 2 and 3 or 4 or 5, you don't have that capacity to reject. You're only receptive to what you're getting. Especially if the one that's sending those messages or those principles are your parents. But as we grow older, we start to learn how to filter what we receive. And then we're having the ability to judge and choose. And if I recall, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu chose to be a Muslim when he's younger than 10. That means he had the ability and capacity to make that choice. But those influences still come our way. So how do they penetrate into our lives? There are 3 receptors. There are 3 channels that are the main receptors into receiving information into our lives. إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد. These 3 receptors are at the top and peak of how we get our information. And how that information molds us is what we hear, what we see, and what we believe or feel. And what we comprehend, believe, feel, comprehend, we'll talk about that. For all the brothers that are here in the Jum'ah, you are actually in a stage of ibadah. While the khatib is giving the khutbah, you are actually in a prayer form. And that's why you're not allowed to talk, play, or be distracted. It is really astonishing to me, even though I don't want to go away from my khutbah, but it is really shocking to me that someone will come for Jummah, 20 minutes or 30 minutes of the week. He's told to be attentive to the khutbah and listen to it, and not distract himself even from playing with the rock or the carpet, and then they have their phone and they're working on their phone. You want to work on your phone, then why did you come for Jum'ah in the first place? You could pray Dhuhr instead of Jum'ah. What is in the phone that is so demanding that you can't wait until the khutbah is done? Now, I have been approached before that someone said I was using my phone for translation. While you're speaking, it's automatic translation. If so, then put it down and don't be busy with it with your hands. But there's also other translations that can translate into your ear. But it's not something that we just say. The Rasul said that we're not allowed to busy ourselves with other things while we're in Jum'ah. So as-sam'a wal-basara wal-fu'ad. We're all accountable for this. كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا. These are the three receptors that change or mold who we are. What you hear, what you see, and what you comprehend or feel. And fortunately for all of us, alhamdulillah, that as you grow older, you become more in command of these receptors. You are more able to filter what you hear, take control of what you see, and if any of these two have lapsed, you still have control of what you filter internally in your heart. But you start from controlling what you hear. The shaitan in the Quran al-Kareem mentioned that he will use his voice to deceive people. Hearing is very powerful. And as many of the Mufassirin have expressed, that that's the first means of the shaitan to get to you, is by allowing you to hear things that you should not. Sometimes what you hear can be presented as factuals. Your heart has to filter that. That you filter it. Sometimes what you hear itself is damaging regardless of what was said, like music. Music today has become so accepted that if anyone was to question the validity of what music is, then they are pinpointed as extremists. When we find in the tafsir that Allah was interpreted by Ibn Abbas as music. And in fact, there are scientific studies today that music works like a hook. The tones itself, not the lyrics, the tone works like a hook. It brings you in to where you fall a victim of what the lyrics will say. The lyrics itself is just poetry, but the music is not. The music is extremely damaging and has extreme power to damage. It creates this hype, this false joy in us. But what it does, it just deters you from meaningful things in your lives. I want to mention a personal story of mine. Back when I was 16 years old, studying in Medina, I used to be a munshid. Now, time has changed. During those years, in the 80s, ulama were debating if the nasheed is halal or not. With the drum. No one is questioning that anymore. I came to one of my professors, one of my teachers, and I said, I'm having a hard time memorizing the Quran al-Kareem. He said, Ya Abdul Hakim, Do you sing nasheed or listen to nasheed? I said, yeah, I actually sing nasheed. He said, how do you expect songs in Quran being in one heart? How do you expect them to come together? You're either going to approach it and embrace the Quran and Kareem, or you're going to embrace the songs. The moment I left the songs, I was gifted the Quran. Now, if we come into the music today in the type of instruments that are used, and the kind of tones that are used, sometimes they call to violence and hate. Now add to it the lyrics that are there, that are profane. All they talk about is human bodies and lust, or race and hate and cussing and words, especially in some of the genre that people use, like rap and all that. Then you're in a dangerous space. How do you expect your character to be maintained? You look at people that listen to music, they look like they have something going wrong up there. They're just bouncing up and down. What's the bounce and wave and all of that? Does that show any kind of sanity? Now put all of that into our youth. And I have read that there are very high-pitched sounds within the music of today that can only be heard by teens. It works like a hook, where adults can no longer, at later age, hear those sounds. And then all of a sudden, these artists, so-called artists, become idols for these teenagers and our children. Examples. Even though themselves they speak that they're driven by power they don't understand. I saw an interview with one of the singers that many of our children fall in love with, Beyonce. And she said, when I'm on the stage, it's not me anymore. I can't sing like that in my home. We have accepted music today like it's a given. Like there's no question over it. I just came back from an ISNA conference. We have embraced music and rap even into what is called Muslim conferences. And all of a sudden we're seeing young men and women together bouncing and singing, even dancing. And then we ask why this woman is so distraught. I want you to think about this. When you do Umrah or Hajj and you do Sa'i, there's two green lights in the Mesa. Those who ever went to Hajj or Umrah. You're told between those two green lights to walk faster or even jog. Is that required by men and women together, or just by men? Only by men. Why our women are not told to jog or run or speed walk? Among all four schools of thought, not just one or two, every school of thought, they said women should walk because it's more conservative for her and more haya. That's in the ibadah, at the house of Allah Ta'ala. During Sa'i, where the only thing everyone thinks about at that moment is forgiveness. And then we introduce our children to what we see today. How can what they hear of this be good to their heart? In fact, I don't even believe their heart can filter anything after that. So much of this junk comes goes into their heart, there's no way for them to have the ability to filter it and make right decisions. And then if you add to it the sight, what we see today, on an everyday basis, it's almost impossible to have pure faith. In fact, because we are accustomed to seeing things that are wrong on a daily basis, we no longer register them as wrong. We no longer have that pulse, that Iman pulse in us that triggers our nerves by seeing something wrong. Because the whole environment introduces us to us on a daily basis that it no longer registers. Then where is the hadith that said, مَنْ رَأَى مِنْكُمْ مُنْكَرًا فليغيره بيده فإن لم يستطع بلسانه فإن لم يستطع فبقلبه وذلك أضعف الإيمان. وليس وراء ذلك مثقال حبة خردل من إيمان. That you are, if you see something wrong, you're to change it. At least at the end of the hadith by your heart. How can your heart register it wrong if this is what you see on a daily basis? We have screens at home now that, children, forget the screens at home. We have screens in our pockets that we're constantly attached to. And no matter how much restrictions we put on it, there's always something that passes by. How are we going to answer to Allah Ta'ala when He said, كُلُّ أُولَئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا? What you hear and see, you're responsible for it. And then I feel sorry for our hearts and minds. Because we have done so much on them. فإذا كما في الحديث, if black spots continue to drop on the heart, one drop after the other, and you don't filter it, you don't clean it, your heart becomes very dark and black. Very dark. You cannot distinguish the light within it anymore. لا يعرف عرفا ولا ينكر منكرا. You cannot see what is right to be right and what is wrong to be wrong. The world today is a dangerous place. Today what's right is wrong, and what's wrong is right overall. You see people today, men look like women, women look like men. You don't know. The whole concept is confusing. Faith itself today is confusing. Because of how much have been put in it that's not part of it. All starts with the little things, I'm going to finish with this. It all starts with the little things. You start to waver the little things. A time will come where a major sin becomes something acceptable. Or tolerable. Not acceptable. Tolerable. Where one would start to stretch the faith to where we become inclusive for all. God is all loving and caring for all. Isn't that what ended Christianity? They allowed whatever happens to happen as long as you're still under that one umbrella. We have people today in our faith. The concept of haram equals extremism. They want to just permit everything. And let me tell you, because we have done that, just ask your parents, for those who are young, or ask yourself if you are old. 30 years ago, and now, compare what we have of faith today, what we had 30 years ago. Now, many of you might say, we have a lot of people today embracing Islam, a lot of people going to the masjid. And 30 years ago, not many used to pray. Yes, it was black and white those days. We knew who was good and we knew who was bad. Today, tell me who's good or bad. How can you know? Coming to the masjid does not equal or equate that you're a good person. It might just mean that you had more time to come than someone else did. أقول ما تسمعون وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده تعالى ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ثم أما بعد أحبتي في الله. I don't want you to come out of this khutbah thinking that the Imam has always been reasonable. And today he was taking the side of an extreme approach, saying music is haram and all of that stuff. Yes, I do believe music is haram. But I also believe that we have become so loose that maybe it's good at one time or another we find the speaker trying to bring us back down to earth. And not just give us a green light to do whatever we want. Islam is not a desire. Faith is not a desire. Faith is conviction. Desires are dangerous. They can become gods. أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. Do you see the one that has taken his desires as his God? Desires are never a reference to go back to distinguish right and wrong. Desires are the dangerous ingredients of going wrong, not going right. I'd rather be on the safe side of being more conservative than I am to be liberal. At least I'll face Allah Ta'ala by saying, I tried to be as conservative as I am. Maybe I was a little bit more stern here, I should have been lenient, than to come Yawm al-Qiyamah with such looseness that everything I have to answer to. But you are not invincible. You are not invincible. You have attacks every second. Your hearing, your sight, and your thoughts are the three most dangerous enemies that you have in your life. Take charge of them or be enslaved by them. Take charge of them and turn that music off. Turn that TV off. Control that tongue. Lower that gaze. And filter whatever information that must penetrate. Or you will be enslaved by all of that as we see the world today. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا دينا إلا قضيته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة هي لك لنا ولنا فيها صلاحا إلا عنتنا على قضائها يسرتها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم انصر إخواننا في فلسطين. اللهم مكن لهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم مكن لهم يا رب العالمين. اللهم مكن لهم يا رب العالمين. اعلموا أحبتي في الله أن الله تعالى يقول إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. ثم اعلموا أن الله تعالى يقول إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله العظيم الجليل يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله أعلم الصواب. Next week, inshallah, Friday, Thursday and Friday, we have a guest that's coming from New Mexico. He will be giving the khutbah for his message, but he's also specialized in dealing with youth. So hopefully, inshallah, Brother Abdul here, I'll talk to him and we will announce on a program for the youth either Thursday night or Friday night, inshallah. But the community, all the community is invited to attend. He did his doctorate in dealing with Muslim youth and youth of today. Saturday night, inshallah, we have also another guest in the evening that's coming on behalf of the Beit al-Mal, not for fundraising, but he will do a lecture for us evening night, a family night, Saturday, inshallah. We have agreed with Beit al-Mal every month they will have someone, inshallah, come visit our masjid and to do a family night on Saturdays. We will post that schedule, inshallah. It will be set for the rest of the year. Bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we'll do that for next year, inshallah. So, take advantage of the guests that's going to come Thursday and Friday, and take the advantage of the other guests that's coming on Saturday, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu fikum wa fikum.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For all those who bought a grave from the cemetery, we will resend emails this week. So by next Friday, if you didn't get an email, please check your spam. If nothing is there, not in your spam, and you didn't get it by next Friday, it's either we have the wrong email, and we're sending it to the wrong people, or we don't have an email, or your name is not really with us in the first place. So if you have bought this grave, and by next Friday you didn't get anything from me, from the Islamic Center in Garden of Paradise, then please come and identify yourself. Because everybody was sent a receipt. So if you didn't get it, either it went to your spam, or the email that we have is incorrect, or your purchase was not recorded. So don't come right now. Just wait for this whole week. By next week, Friday, if you didn't get anything, then we certainly have a problem we need to solve, inshallah. Jazakallah.